This is Blenderstyle, the show where we discuss a blend of heavy and extreme music. On this episode, Imminence, Turn the Light On. This was released in 2019 on a Rising Empire Records. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers, guys.
I've never heard of Imminence. I don't think Nate has either. But Casey, this is your pick. Where'd this come from?
This came from the interwebs.
You just like randomly search some shit and you're like...
It showed up for the song. It was a song that was released at the beginning of this year. Showed up on my YouTube feed. I checked it out, and it was a really, really good song.
Was it a song from this album?
Negative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I didn't know it at the time.
Because this came out in what, 2001?
2019.
Oh, 19.
Yeah, so the new song that showed up on my YouTube feed, I wasn't aware of them. I listened to it. It was really good. So I figured, let's try out some of their older stuff.
So I'm not super...
I didn't know that song was not on this album when I suggested this album. I just want to throw that out there real quick.
Okay. But you like that song that you heard on YouTube?
That song was good.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I had to look this up on Wikipedia to kind of describe what genre this is, and that it listed it as post-hardcore / alternative metalcore, which kind of makes sense.
Yes.
Post-hardcore, which is not a genre I listen to, so that makes sense. I couldn't really pinpoint it.
Yeah, I couldn't pinpoint it either. I
wouldn't put post-hardcore on this.
So I saw...
Really?
No, because bands that I think of that are post-hardcore don't sound like this.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with you. I think the general census on it is this is a metalcore band from Sweden, which, from what everybody says, metalcore isn't a standard genre in Sweden. And
that makes sense.
So the general consensus was this was a metalcore band from Sweden, and Sweden's not a big metalcore country. I guess this isn't a genre that normally comes from there. You get a lot of black metal and things like that, but this is something kind of different for the region. So
the heavier vocals they're not guttural. It's more shouty.
Yeah, it's more screamy, shouty kind of.
And then there's like clean vocals that are also, but they're heavy clean vocals, not like...
They're raspy.
Raspy, that's a good way to put it. And it's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. Like the vocalist on this, he plays violin in a lot of the songs, and
there's violins and bits of this and a little bits of electronic and keyboard,
and there's some layering with like you said, with some synthesization and keyboard and things coming in and out. Violin kind of comes in and out throughout it. The vocal range on the singer is really good. I think his name's Eddie Berg, and he has a really great vocal range from screaming and yelling to his clean vocals.
So you talked about the violin and the electronics and stuff, and I think that's kind of why it sounds metalcore. It's very produced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost overproduced at parts.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It sounds very polished.
Yeah, it's like they went back and redid this multiple times to kind of clean it up and get exactly.
I don't think we're doing a great job pinpointing what genre this is. What is this?
Well, I feel like this is kind of everywhere. I feel like this band is really trying to sprinkle in like screamo-y thing. Like at times,
is this screamo?
Well, I mean, at times it reminds me of like Under Oath.
Okay.
Sometimes it reminds me of like...
That's why I'm having a hard time with this.
Yeah, I think this band is kind of just everywhere, and like...
Yeah, and I agree with that. They're kind of...
I mean, the description...
No, I don't think so. I think they're like, what you're saying, Under Oath and these other bands I don't like. I think it's that genre that's just not good.
Yeah, well, it's just beefed up, and then there's like cookie parts to it and everything.
There's a very cookie cutter aspect to this where they do a verse, a chorus, a verse, a chorus, a bridge, or a breakdown.
Yeah.
And then a lead out chorus. They follow the same song structure throughout the whole thing, which gets
again why I'm calling it metalcore, because it's more traditional song arrangements.
Maybe more traditional metalcore. From what I've read, this isn't typical of their normal sound, I guess.
Oh, really?
I guess they're more metalcore sounding on their earlier releases. This is kind of from what everybody says, one of their more mainstream sounds.
They're venturing out a little bit more.
It's catchy as fuck. Like, Paralyzed is in my head right now.
Yeah. So the
and he
songs,
raised the first two songs for sure.
Yeah, there's a really good like where they have some really catchy riffs and some really catchy like tones to them, I guess.
Lyrics,
lyrical content, things like
the
that.
choruses, yeah.
The lead singer said in an interview that he was inspired to sing because one of his favorite bands was Linkin Park from Chester Bennington.
That makes sense.
And after reading that, that's all I could hear in this. Like, honestly,
funny.
all his, at least every song on this album is about his mental health and how.
Well, I feel like, dude, I feel like this guy
I can't
literally,
hear that now.
his songs are like, my head, my shoulders,
Yeah.
my back, everything fucking hurts.
Yeah, it's like this
Fucking teenage angst up the ass.
exactly. It's like
This
it's
guy's
almost
probably 30.
it's almost like a feel sorry for me kind of thing.
Yeah.
You get that feeling.
Is that why it's
throughout it.
whiny?
Oh, it's for sure white.
There is some whiny stuff. So these guys also not only like in this album, but they do a whole bunch of acoustic stuff on top of this. So this whole album, they pretty much did an acoustic version of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right.
And honestly, I think the acoustic version is better than the.
You sent an acoustic version of which song?
I think it's.
No, go for it.
What you sent us in a group chat. You sent us,
I sent an acoustic version of Paralyzed and
and it was outstandingly good.
But there was another acoustic one I sent. I forget which one it was.
And it was really good.
And they were good. They were better than the plugged-in version.
I'm gonna totally mess this up.
No, go
because
for it.
honestly, I heard this album and I didn't want to hear anything else. Like you were sending us stuff and I like saw the name and I was just like, I'm not gonna listen to this. Like I don't mean, like,
You were just done.
it took me 12 times to listen to it, but the 3 times that we're supposed to listen to.
And you just, I had the same problem. The first time
The first 2 songs, don't get me wrong, I'm like, okay, this is pretty decent. I honestly think they were decent openers.
Yeah.
I like that they played with different genres and shit, but like the lyrics were just.
Dude, the first time I heard this, I was like, "This is bad."
No,
It grew on me, but at first,
exactly. It took a lot to grow, and I'm with Nathan.
See, I didn't grow. Like at first, I was like going in like maybe this is gonna change my mind. Like Whitechapel.
It was like cancer. You're like, I need to get this looked at before it gets worse.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just thought like I went into it thinking like, okay, this band's gonna maybe change my point of view on some of this stuff because we've reviewed stuff before where like I would never listen to
it
that
like
type
opens
of
your
music.
eyes.
And
Yeah.
it opens my eyes, and then like I listen to this and
No, and I agree with you. Like I heard the song that was recommended on YouTube and listened to it, and I was like, oh, that's really good. This album's got to be at least somewhere along that lines. This album was nowhere near what
Really?
that song was. This album, 100% was completely different. I think I saw an interview with the bass player for this band, and he was talking about how when it was a behind the scenes for that music video for the new one they put out, I forget what the name of it is. And he talked about it feels good to go back to playing heavy music after 4 years of playing mellow, whiny stuff. And so even some members of the band don't like the direction this album went.
Mhm.
At least that's
Interesting.
what I pick up from
it was pretty cookie cutter.
It was super
Like it
cookie-cutter.
was pretty predictable. Like I felt like I knew the next part that was gonna happen. And
Yeah.
then even like I knew the next word he was gonna say.
Yeah, it was
But
super
the
good.
production's really good.
The
I mean-
production was decent. I think it, like Matt said, I think it was overproduced.
Yeah.
I agree with both of you. I think the first 2 tracks were probably the best tracks on the whole album.
Yeah.
I think the second to the last track, Lighthouse, was really good because it kind of went back to that kind of metalcore kind of sound thing. But other than that, this thing, it started off and gave you kind of a peek of what was to come. And if you didn't heed that warning and you went into it thinking, oh, it's going to get better, you're going to be disappointed because
Yeah.
it didn't really get
There's
better.
literally like pop songs on this. Like
There
the
is.
very beginning, like we brought up, like
Ugh.
honestly, like Justin Bieber, like literally comes into mind in like some parts where I'm like, well, this guy is really trying to write like something. It was just too mixed up. Like there was parts I liked. Like literally, there was definitely some musicianship that was really good and stuff. But like.
Well, and the chunky guitars are great. Like
No,
the guitar sound.
tone on it sounds like a Fear Factory distortion on it. That
It was
really
the same
kind of
breakdown
It's not that-
springy.
every
No,
fucking.
I'm saying the springy kind of distortion they used. Not like the style.
It was more like a metalcore, like a
if you listen to Fear Factory, Obsolete, the guitar tone that they use through that, this guitar tone is almost exactly the same. It's got that almost like somebody's playing a spring.
We can't compare this to Obsolete, though.
No, I'm having a hard time with that, Casey.
Yeah.
I know that you love Fear Factory and you understand
I understand you guys are having a hard time comparing, but I'm not comparing it to Fear Factory. I'm saying the guitar tone is similar. Not the style, because there's no fucking way this is anywhere near as good as what Dino's.
I'm just thinking my brain is hard to, I'm trying to.
That springy kind of,
like almost twangy, like
almost Slipknot
does
it.
Okay, all right.
That's what I'm talking about, and they have that going on for it. And then the drums sound amazing on this whole album.
Yeah.
The
sound is good.
The drumming is good.
The
sounds of the drums are.
So what you're telling us, Casey, is what you like is how the instruments sound, not how they're played.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Not the notes they're playing, but how they're tuned and shit.
What do you like, though? Because you like this album, right? Or no?
No.
Okay, thank God.
I like the parts when they get heavy. They do a great job of bringing it all in and stuff. And then when he peaks that violin out in parts, sounds really good.
It's really tastefully done, and it works really well.
But
it's
overall, it's missing a lot. This is something this is almost like a My Chemical Romance, but heavy.
So I really like that the violin parts are really tastefully done. There's electronic bits that are really well done. And he does this clean vocal part that's like a clean vocal sound it's heavy. It's not like Iron Maiden clean vocals where it sounds pretty or whatever. It's raspy. It has some vocal fry to it, but it's still very clean. And I like it. It works really well.
Yeah, so I would agree. I would say the vocal range on this is really good. The production value as far as like the louder parts from the softer parts are brought in line pretty well to where you don't have to adjust your volume for the quieter parts and you don't have to turn it down for the louder parts. They do a good job there. The violin is cool. I think the violin is probably the best part of this whole album. I mean, you don't hear a lot of
definitely stands out
kind of things with bringing it in. And they, like you said, they bring it in at opportune times and it's really tasteful the way they do it.
What'd you like about it, Nate?
What I do like, though, is yes, the vocalist does have some shining parts. The guitar player has some shining parts. The drummer has some good shining parts where he's like really good, intricate and stuff. But the sound on the drums is so robotic, it's so ridiculous that.
What else did you dislike?
The fact that they were trying to ride the wave of trying to be extreme and pop at the same time. I feel like this was more written in the sense of like, how many records can we sell? It's just not a very good record. It's not something that I would listen to.
This is pussy ass shit. This is some
teenage
wimpy
angst up the ass. Like I said, it's my head hurts, my shoulders hurt, my nipples hurt. Like it's
like whiny.
I'm in
wimpy.
the dark. I'm this. I'm that. It's like shut the fuck up.
The song "Saturated Soul," where he does like the oh, and then he says, "Make my heart beat again." Ugh.
Yeah, it was so bad.
Ugh.
It was so fucking bad.
It's so predictable. It's so just. I've heard this before.
This is this is anti-metal for me. Like when I think metal, in my heart of hearts, I think fucking Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power. To me, that represents metal, true and true. It's heavy.
Well, we're talking
it's
all
aggressive.
extreme music, though, right? And this is not extreme.
This is extremely sad.
Extremely disappointing.
This whole album is the anthem to the millennials. It's what it is. From what I saw on the video for the new song, it was amazing. It was the song was awesome.
So you would say try to listen to some of the newer.
I think the first two songs are fine.
No, and that's the thing. The first two songs are fine.
I
From
agree.
the consensus from what, because after listening to this, I was like, this can't be right. This can't be the same. Somebody stole that band's name and created.
But that's good that we kind of explore those things.
Yeah, and even the consensus from, the interviews from people at the band saying like, oh, I'm glad to be back playing heavy music or whatever.
It's telling. And
from fans that have listened to this album and compared it to previous albums, this is their radio hits album of it. And they, like I said, they did a acoustic version of it. And I think this album works better as an acoustic.
Do you think maybe they came out with this and they were like, fuck, we should do an acoustic album so it doesn't completely miss?
Maybe.
Because I feel like they've like did like deluxe of this album. I feel like they did like
They really
quite a bit with
I
this
think
album.
did a label get a hold of this and they're like, we're gonna make a lot of money with this?
and that's what it almost seems like because there's the original
Some label
version.
fucked this band up like they did Paramore.
Dude, literally, there's parts where it's like a hook, like Justin Bieber or something.
Yeah, there's some
like it's pop.
Yeah,
like,
there's
there's like pop.
there's parts in there
elements.
where you're like, oh, I don't know what you're thinking. And the only thing, like once I read that the lead singer Eddie Berg's inspiration for singing was Chester Bennington from Linkin Park. That's all I could hear now. Like his screams sound like fucking Chester.
He was just
from
trying to
Linkin
get all
Park.
emo as fucked up in
his
it.
vocal content or his lyrical content is all like, feel sorry for me, my soul's falling apart, my heartbeat.
Like
that kind
he
of shit.
like mentioned every
it was
anxiety
it was
moment,
super
every fucking
disappointing.
body part, and then I don't know, man.
This starts off strong. Like the first two tracks, like okay, the first 20 seconds of the first track.
This album's 51 minutes, man.
The first two or the first like 20 seconds of the first track should have been a warning to turn it off and run the other way, because it picks up and it's a decent track. The second track is really good, and then it just slowly goes downhill from there. And from what I've seen online, a lot of the videos or the promos were for the first couple tracks. It's like they really tried to push this to be like, hey, look, we're still the hard metal thrash or metalcore band that we were before. Check us out. And then they bamboozled people into buying it.
What'd you give it for a rating, Casey?
I give it a 3.3, mostly because the musical talent of the band, I think the band's talented, and hearing what they could take from their plugged-in versions, like they did on the album, and then converting it to acoustic. The band's got talent. I'm not going to take that away from them. They're a talented group of people. The vocalist has a great vocal range. The guitar players are great, and they do some pretty good solos. But as a whole for this album, it's just a complete miss. It wasn't that great. It was lacking. It lost momentum after the first couple tracks. They tried to recover with Lighthouse, but it was just kind of too little too late. What do you think, Matt?
I give this a 2.2. Ugh. There's a couple good songs up front, but this is pretty fucking awful.
Yeah.
What about you, Nate? What'd you give this?
I give it a 1.0. I think
wow.
this is kind of a turd. The only reason why I give it even a 1.0 is that I finally made it to 3 listens.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're like, I made it through, so it gets a 1.
Sucks pretty bad.
This sucks
But
bad. Yeah.
I understand where people are coming from. I know what my 15-year-old niece is listening to.
There you go.
This is Blenderstyle. That was Imminence. Turn the light on.